أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. All praise is to Allah. We seek His aid and His assistance and ask His forgiveness, and we seek refuge in Allah from the evil of our souls and from the evil of our actions. Whomever Allah guides, no one will be able to mislead him, and whomever He leads astray, no one can guide him. I testify that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah alone, without partner, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave and messenger. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sisters. Today's session is hosted by Rashida. So over to you, sis.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I think same like the other sisters, I've not actually prepared for today. I just thought it's my journey, my story that I'll be sharing. So where do I start? That's the obvious question. When I came to coaching, and when I tell people about my journey to coaching, I always start from when I was ill. But listening to some of the other sisters over the last couple of days, it's much more than just that. It's more, my journey started from when I was born. So I've decided that's where I'm going to start. So I'm Rashida, and I was born in a city called Gloucester. I am the eldest of 4 girls, and really growing up, I was fortunate to be in a heavily Muslim community. A lot of the families around us were Gujarati speaking or Urdu speaking. My parents are from Mauritius, and it's kind of like I grew up, I had friends, I had people we knew, we had lots of contacts, but I didn't seem to fit in. I kind of like, I'd muddle my way through because I wasn't Asian enough for anyone, but obviously, you know, that's my background. I'm from Mauritius, my parents are from Mauritius. But I grew up, and I'm fortunate that I have a lot of family in Gloucester. I have a lot of cousins from my mum's side, and so I was always surrounded by people of the same age as me. And when I was listening to one of the sisters talk yesterday, and I thought, I spent most of my childhood thinking I was being compared to other children, and that stayed with me. It stayed with me. There was a particular person that I was compared to, and that stayed with me for a very, very long time. So much so that I didn't even realize it until the last couple of days. What else? So I have cousins from my dad's side who came to live with us, and they still live there, and I'm still very close to them. And then when I was like in my middle teens, we moved to Bradford, and whilst we were in Bradford, we had a bereavement, and for me it hit me hard, and it left a big hole in my heart and in my life, and it was a trauma, but I didn't realize how much it affected me, and no one around me knew how much it affected me. And it was a bereavement that I couldn't talk about for a very, very long time. So when we moved to Bradford, and then 6 months later, we moved to a village called London Colney, which is just outside of St Albans. And for the fourth time, I had to join a new school. And for the first time in my life, I was going to a school that was predominantly white. And again, as it had been previously, I didn't fit in. I was the only Asian girl in my class, and the only other Asian girl in the year group was also Mauritian, but she refused to admit that she was Mauritian. She'd say, "No, no, no, I'm not Mauritian," and so I didn't really have any Asian friends um, during my late teenage years. Um, I really struggled to fit in, and my education suffered. I didn't do greatly at my GCSEs. Um, and I then went to Mauritius, where I met my husband uh, and got married. So I've been married now for 22 years, and alhamdulillah, I have two beautiful children. My daughter, who is now 19, and my son, who is 9. Um, we well, when my husband and I came back to England, I was fortunate to find a job in the civil service, and I'm still there. Quite a few years later, I'm still there. But coaching for me, I had no idea about it. I had no idea at all coaching existed. And, I had issues with my husband. I was always, I always thought of myself as being someone who was easily angry, easily upset, easily annoyed, and kind of like, I I'd been told these things since I was a teenager, like, oh, you're you're trouble, you're annoying, you get angry. Um, and gosh, as I'm speaking, I'm just thinking there's so much that I've been through, and I just don't know how much I can share, or not even I can share, how much I actually believed in them, in what I'd been told. Um, so those of you who've seen me on camera before, I'm not, well, fair enough, I'm fat, I'm big, and I've always been like that since I was about 12, no, 10. I think from about 10, I've always been chubby. And from when I was young, I've always heard people refer to me as the fat girl. Oh, and these were from adults. So not even people of my age, but these were from adults who now I think they should have known better. But I suppose for them, it was just a way of endearment. And that stuck with me. And I kind of lost my self-worth. I, Sorry, my house alarm's just gone off. It's all right. Where was I? So I kind of, I didn't realize how much it affected me. And I was ill. After I had my son, alhamdulillah, I stayed home. I was on maternity leave, and then decided to take a career break. Um, and when I took the career break, it was just, I just wanted to spend time with my child. With my daughter, I'd spent the first 2 years with her, and then I got my job, and she went to nursery, and we have quite a good bond. Um, but I missed out a lot because I was working full time. So I felt like I really missed out on little things when she was at school, going to school assemblies, going in to like just watch what she's doing. So this time around, I decided I wasn't going back to work straight away. So I was fortunate to be able to be at home whilst my son was in reception. And this is when everything got worse for me. I started heading towards losing myself. I became ill. I didn't want to go out, so slightly reclused. Um, my body was reacting to the way that I was thinking, and I was constantly stressed. And as I said before, getting angry, getting upset, being annoyed. It was just like, someone could walk in, and just this, the squeak of the door. If in that moment I had a headache, That was it. Like, you know, I'd be really angry, like, why are you opening the door so loudly? Why are you making so much noise? Um, and it was a real hindrance. It was my home was not nice. I actually don't know how my daughter put up with me, because I relied on her a lot. I relied on her to look after my son, to help me out when I needed to cook, to help me out with just tidying up. Um, but alhamdulillah, my children go to, well, my daughter did at the time, go to an Islamic school on a Saturday, which is where Amina Hussein is, where I met her. Now, Amina Hussein actually is really good friends with my sisters, and she knows my mum, well, and my dad. But I didn't know her. I just knew her as the wife of the person who runs Albania, the school at where the children go to for their lessons. And I saw her advertise a 5-week parenting course. Now, I'd been going to parenting courses at my son's school, and I didn't really find it that helpful. I was like, well, these things you're telling me, I do that anyway with my son. I do these things, you know, I'm trying my best. So I went to this parenting course, and I think, now I might be wrong, but I'm sure I took my husband to one of them as well. And he came to one of the, yeah, he came with me. And at the end of it, he was like, oh, this is really good. Yeah, I think you should continue attending. So for the next 5 weeks, I attended the course that she did. And then I suppose that's where it really began for me, because I felt in my heart that there was something here. There was something that was calling to me. And I think Amina always says to me, I didn't want to sell to you. I was really trying hard not to, because I know your family. But I persisted because I really felt it. And sorry, now I've got the ice cream man. Oh my gosh. But I felt it, and I really, you know, when we talk about coaching, the cost that comes with it, I really struggled with that, because I knew what my financial situation is, and I wasn't working at the time, and it was relying on my husband. But I spoke to my husband about it, and after a load of oohing and ahhing, and making dua, I signed up to the course. So much so that, fast forwarding a couple of years, I didn't want to leave Amina. She had to say, sis, your time has ended, in a nice way, just because I enjoy the sessions so much. I've got so much out of it. So through it, that's where, in my coaching, that's where I've discovered that I hadn't dealt with that bereavement that I'd gone through as a teenager. I hadn't dealt with that, and that's one of the things I tackled during my coaching, my journey. And then, even at home, things slowly changed. And I remember taking my husband to another one of Amina's events, where a few of us, I think she'd opened it to husband and wives. And that was the first time that my husband and I had gone out and we did not talk about our children. Like, we had lunch, sorry. And when we went to lunch, we had not talked about our children at all. We had just talked about us and about the things that we wanted and about the course and what we were seeing. And a couple of weeks later, we went to France, where one of my sister-in-laws live. And my sister-in-law is the first person who made the comment to me, and she said, whatever you guys are doing, keep doing it. And then I told her about the coaching that we'd been on, that we'd gone to, and the coaching that I was doing. And my sister-in-law then reminded me that the last time that we had gone to France, my husband and I, our relationship was a bit turbulent. And she was like, you know what, when you guys left here, I was so worried because I didn't know what the future was going to be like for you. And she was like, but seeing you now, I thank Allah, and alhamdulillah, I do too, that, you know, we sorted our differences, and we just worked together as a team. And the one thing I always comment on is our when we go on holiday, the packing. I always pack only for my husband to unpack everything and repack everything. And it's always been like one of those contentious issues where you say kind of like, well, what was the point of me doing it? But then my husband's kind of like, well, you do it. But then when things won't fit in, or there's extra things that need to be fitting in, he gets annoyed. And this time going there, we just, and we were actually going for a wedding, I think, if I'm not wrong. I think we were going for a wedding, but we pack. I didn't actually pack. I took the suitcase, put it in the sitting room, and just put everything out and put everything that we needed. And I said to him, there's no point me doing it. You're going to do it anyway. Let's just get it done. And alhamdulillah, it was done. And for the first time, we didn't argue over packing. We didn't argue over like what should be taken, what shouldn't be taken. And even when we forgot some things, and we're driving and we realize we've forgotten it, we didn't even have an argument over it, which would normally, not even an argument, a disagreement. We were both just like, well, it wasn't meant to go. As long as we've got the important things, that wasn't meant to go, doesn't matter. And the same thing when we were in France and we went shopping, I wasn't in the place of, I need this. I was looking at things and I was like, do I really need it? And even my husband at that point, my husband was like, no, this is not you. Normally you would see something, you know, someone's shown you something and it's nice, and you'd say, oh, that looked nice, I want it. Or you know, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's nice, let's buy that. But honestly, I went there and I was just buying the things that I did need, or like I liked, but not over the top as normal. And I think that was one of the best compliments I ever got, was from my sister-in-law, about the way in which our relationship had changed in just a couple of weeks. Through my coaching, as I said, I joined because I wanted to be a better parent. I don't think, I didn't think my children, well, no, I don't think they are. My children are not naughty. And I really do believe you need to understand your child. And I was really fortunate with my daughter. Maybe it's an only child thing, but she was quiet. She listened, she did what she was told. To where my son's a bit more challenging. He's got energy. He's got lots and lots of energy. And he's not naughty. He's just like, you know, he's got something in his head and that's it. He wants that. So coaching for me, I wanted to be a better parent. But I got more than that. I dealt with issues that had been affecting me all my life. I've dealt with, well, marital issues. Instead of being just a parent, I feel like I'm a friend with my daughter, and I'm trying to do the same with my son, being there, guiding them. And I mentioned a bit earlier on about not fitting in. And I always looked up to other people, because I've not been to university and I don't consider myself to be highly educated or even like, you know, clever or intelligent. And I've always looked at people around me, and there's so many people in my life that I look up to, and I think, oh wow, they're clever, you know, they've got a talent. And when my sisters went to uni, they made some amazing friends. And even just like, you know, when I hear them talk about their circle of friends, I'm like, I want friends. I want friends like that. Because moving schools, moving areas, I didn't make a lot of friends. I didn't fit in because I wasn't the right ethnicity for them. I couldn't make friends with everyone because I've had to follow certain rules from my dad's household that most of my friends wouldn't when we lived in London Colney. The friends I did have contact with, when I moved to Mauritius, when I came back, I lost contact with them. I actually had their numbers and everything in a diary, and on a day that I was heavily pregnant, I went shopping and I left the diary at the phone box. And so I lost contact with all those friends. But even though I had those friends, I didn't fit in. I didn't feel that, like, I could trust people. I didn't feel I could talk to people and open up. And there are other things like that happened during my childhood where I find it hard to trust people, especially when when it comes to men. Like, I find it really hard to trust. Um, but fitting in, you kind of like, I always made the dua. I always made dua that, Allah give me friends like my sisters have, friends who are supportive, friends who are in the way of deen, or that are supporting them, encouraging them to follow their deen. Um, and I mentioned deen because for me, I struggled. Growing up, I was sent to a madrasa where if you didn't read what your imam was saying, your ustad was saying, you got hit with a stick. And I struggled. I really struggled to follow and to learn and to yeah, I just didn't it I didn't see myself as being endearing towards Islam. And I honestly believe that I only kept to what I knew because of my parents and the family that we are around, who do pray, who do, um, talk about Allah. Um, and I had a big resistance. I kind of, every time something went wrong, I would say, yeah, Allah doesn't love me. Allah, where's Allah? And I know that sounds so bad, but that's what I saw at the time, because I felt kind of like, well, I'm a Muslim, but all these bad things are happening. All these, it can't. Why is it just me? Why am I the one who's being affected? Why am I the one who's always grumpy? Why am I the one who's always getting annoyed? I'm looking at other people. I'm looking at other people's relationships, and I'm like, well, that one's got a nice life. They've got lovely children. They're perfect parents. They've achieved so much. They've got the best career going. They've got the good work-life balance. But me, I'm just stuck. I'm just here. I'm just, struggling, in pain, with myself. And I had quite a lot of dark times. Um, and I made that dua. And even when I was ill, I was making that dua that Allah send me some friends, like, and I didn't know how it would come, because my husband always says to me, like, he's like, you don't like interacting, you don't like going to people's houses. And it's kind of, it's not that it's true, it's just that I don't have time. um I'm kind of like, well, I'm looking after my kids, I'm going to my parents, I don't have time to go to people's houses. um so I didn't know where it was going to come from. And the few people that I did know and that I do mix with, again, it was just kind of like, I didn't feel I fitted in. I didn't feel kind of like, you know, they've got a way of doing things in their culture, which in my culture we don't. And I think once one of the sisters mentioned something to me, and she was like, "Oh, that's a little bit offensive. We don't call, men by their names. We call them brother." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's not how I've grown up. But now you've said that, I'll take that on board." Um, but it's just a dua that I made, and a dua that I always made. And when I started my coaching journey, I was looking for self-improvement as a parent. But alhamdulillah, I didn't just gain friends, I gained sisters. And I know, like, a few people have mentioned that we've been, how close our sisters are. But it's just, there is so much support that we have for each other, so much love. Um, And I know whatever I bring to the table, the sisters will always pick me up and they will always help me, and it's vice versa, the same for them. I'm trying to think what else I need to say about my journey. The other
How's,
thing, sorry, hello,
how's your health, Rashida?
my health. Well, it's on and off. Alhamdulillah, it's been right. So I have IBS. That's one of my main, IBS and migraines. They're the two things that I really, really struggle with. And Alhamdulillah, since coaching, since starting coaching even, my migraines are not triggered. You know, I found out that they were triggered by stress. And when I was getting into that dark thinking, I was overthinking. I was causing my migraines to be worse. And the IBS, exactly the same thing. I'd carried that trauma from my childhood. Um, and that's actually when my IBS started. I just didn't know that's what it was at the time. Um, and again, alhamdulillah, it's better. But both conditions, while stress is a major part of it, um, little things like sitting at a different angle or like looking at the computer at a different angle, that can trigger, but it's a small ache, not a migraine. And maybe once in a while I do get a migraine. I mean, I'm human, so I will get stressed. But I can recognize those symptoms now. So I can recognize that, when my tummy's starting to hurt, I start looking at what I've been doing. I start looking a bit at what I've been, um, you know, what I've been thinking about. And actually, I'm going to share this with you. So for the last couple of years, I haven't been able to fast. And the first year that happened to me, I didn't actually enjoy my Ramadan because I felt like I wasn't fasting, therefore I was missing out. Um, and I think last year I realized that it's more than just fasting. It's more than just, Ramadan is such a beautiful month that we've got so much opportunity in. And then this year, I was all ready for Ramadan and I was like, right, okay, Ramadan's coming again. I'm not going to be able to fast because of the reaction, the way my body reacts. I'm not going to be able to fast. I've got to go to work. And alhamdulillah, and I see Allah sent us a pandemic and I saw it as Allah sending us an opportunity. You know, I fasted for every day that I was able to, alhamdulillah, and I had no aches, no pains that would be more than normal. That would be kind of like, not because I've eaten the wrong type of food, not because I'm not eating. And I kept all my fasts. And even my energy levels was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, I've got energy. And I wasn't expecting to have energy. I was expecting to be having tummy aches. I was expecting to be like lethargic. But alhamdulillah, I I was okay. And even my daughter was saying this to me the other day. She was like, Mum, this Ramadan, it was so different. It's not like normal. Normally you weren't able to fast. And I think even my sisters and my mum were saying, like, my mum was surprised when she was like, when I said to her, yeah, I'm fasting. And she's like, should you be fasting? But alhamdulillah, it's all good. I've been able to fast. Um, and I can see, like, when things are going, when I start getting stressed, I can reel it back in. I can see where it's going. And I think one of the things is, when I said like marital issues, I could have picked an argument for absolutely anything before. And one of the things that happened with me and my husband was, often when we go shopping, if I liked something, I would be like, oh yeah, that's nice. And my husband would be like, well, if you like it, buy it. And I'm like, no, it's nice, but it's not necessary. And in my mind, the thing I was doing was, I was thinking, oh, he's going to know I like it, he's going to buy it for me. But then because he didn't buy it, because I told him that, it's nice, but it's not necessary, he didn't buy it. I felt let down. And that just now I'm laughing at it because I just think how silly that I was expecting him to do something that he didn't even know I was expecting. Um, but yeah, that's, those sort of things now. I don't have expectations. Um, Admittedly, on on Thursday, Friday. On Friday was my wedding anniversary, and my husband went out, and I thought, oh, he's going to come back with a nice bouquet of flowers. And when he came back, he didn't have any flowers. In the past, I would have been upset, and as I said to him, I was like, oh, there's no flowers, and he's like, no, I didn't think, sorry, just a minute. Sorry, I've talked too much. My throat's gone really dry. Um, but when I said that to my husband about the flowers, I happened to look over into the garden, and there were the most beautiful flowers. And I've had my eyes on these flowers before Eid, and I'm like looking at these flowers growing, and I'm thinking it would be really nice if they opened up for Eid. I could cut them and put them in a vase and put them in the house. And my eyes wandered over to them, and I just thought, in that moment, I thought, alhamdulillah, look at that. My husband didn't buy me flowers because he went and actually he said to me, he was like, oh, they didn't have any. And my daughter was like, yeah, because you want daddy bringing you flowers from the supermarket. And I'm like, well, it's flowers. And I just thought, look, Allah's given me flowers. Um, and actually, that brings me on to something I mentioned earlier. Sorry, I'm keep going backwards and forwards. I keep remembering different things, but I was talking about how I had a resistance to Islam and a resistance to following. Um, and I didn't even realize, like, when someone would start talking about religion, I switched off. And when I decided, when my son started reception, I made a decision to wear hijab. And the reason I did that was because I thought, I want to wear the hijab, um, but if I don't do it now, I won't want to do it because then people will know me at his school with a hijab, without a hijab. So I was like, no, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it now. And when I did it, and most people, when they put on their hijab, they're putting it on because they're saying, I'm doing it for my religion. And for me, it was different. I was putting my hijab on because I wanted people to know I'm Muslim. Um, and actually, I don't know if I've shared this story before, but where I live, there is a good Asian community. And for me, I once went into a butcher shop, and the guy was just chopping away on his meat or whatever it was, and I was stood there waiting, and he didn't say anything to me. And then my sister walks in, and she wears hijab, and he looks up at her and said salam, and then asked her what she needed. And that really, I still have this happened such a long time ago, but at that point I thought, wow, you got a respect just because you're wearing hijab. You got salamed because you're wearing hijab. And not only that, he completely ignored the fact that I was stood there waiting to order, and you've walked in, and he's completely bypassed me and gone straight to you. um and that was one of the things that I kind of thought, oh wow. um and a few other incidences in the area that I live in, where people would assume what I was, because whether I don't dress wearing Asian clothes, and so there was like you got people assuming your religion. So for me, wearing hijab, it was about saying I am Muslim. But it was, I am Muslim, but I don't really know much about my religion. Just what I've been told as a child, just what my sisters have said when they've gone to different courses, but nothing more. And coaching actually brought me closer to Islam, closer to Allah. And I've always believed in Allah, and I've always felt, you know, um, a connection to Allah. Sometimes it was like slightly severed, but it was there. And I just didn't know what I was going to find. And I've found my connection to Allah. And, you know, over this last month, we've been doing, Dr. Amina's been doing the morning adhkar. And after I attended the session, I decided I was going to be doing this with my family. So, you know, my family are not that they're not pleased, because I'm sure they're pleased, but when I'm keeping them up and all they want to do is go crawl into bed, it's kind of like, Mum, do we have to do the adhkar now? Can we not do it when we wake up? But alhamdulillah, we've been doing it. And one of my sisters said this to me. She was like, you know, you're trying to do good for your family, and that's a good thing. So I was saying my son didn't wake up for Fajr this morning. I looked at him and I didn't even try to wake him up because I knew how tired he was. And he's 9, so I was thinking, well, it's not obligatory on him. And alhamdulillah, he's done really well so far, every day waking up and staying up for adhkar. And, you know, but I really think coaching brought me closer to Allah. More than anything, I found my connection with Allah. And I knew when we talked about coaching, I knew I wanted to do coaching because I've always wanted to help people. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, if this can help sisters, why not? Why can't I do this? And bring a peace to families. Like, you know, there's so many of us that suffer. We don't know what we're suffering from. We don't know that, you know, some people don't even know that they've got an issue. So that's where my coaching journey is. I've become a coach, and that's what I want to do. I want to help sisters and share this understanding that I have. And like I said, I'm so thankful to Allah that He brought me a coach who is supportive, and she's always there for us, alhamdulillah, and also brought me coaching sisters who are so close to us, alhamdulillah. They're very, I feel really close to them all. So yeah, I'm going to end my story there because I think I'm just waffling and rabbiting on. But I think, Nadira, you've raised your hand. Is there something you'd like to say? I've not, sorry.
Nadira, did you want to unmute yourself, or you can write in the chat? Either or anybody else for that matter. If they've got a question for Rashida, our beautiful friend and sister. Oh, that was a mistake, no problem.
Sorry, I haven't read the messages because I thought if I start reading messages, I'm going to get sidetracked because I haven't learned to read and talk at the same time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, the true sign of intelligence. Subhanallah, there you go. Yeah, that's definitely so. Jazakallah khair, Rashida, for sharing. That's so beautiful and so kind of you to go there. And to be honest, none of us really knew where we were going with our journeys and what it would unearth. But I think even for us, we're still learning about our own self. But it's been a beautiful journey of self-discovery, and it's been teamed up with finding Allah. You know, I think I said that yesterday, and I think your story is just highlighting that, really, that you found yourself once again. It didn't matter about your ethnicity or your size or your health, or you realized
that's what I was going to say. So, you know, I was talking about fitting in, and although in our coaching group we are all from different backgrounds, okay, Amina, Farah and I are Mauritian, but the rest of us are all, but we're all different, if that makes sense. So we've all grown up in different areas, different we have different lives, obviously, but there is a sense of we are together, we fit together. And like, you know, I don't feel when I'm with you, for example, Dr. Amina, I don't feel kind of like you don't, you know, that I don't fit in, that, you know, I should just stay quiet and stay back. I just feel like you're one of my sisters that I've grown up with. But yeah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, absolutely. And it's when you understand how your mind works and how you experience your day-to-day, you know, you realize, judgment drops away, expectations drop away, illusions, you see through them, falsehood, you see truth, and that's what this journey has been about. Seeing through our illusions, our doubts, and, really dropping expectations, because when you realize how your mind works, you realize where the expectations came from. You realize where those expectations came from, and they're not as black and white as we initially thought. You Rashida, you and I can sort of, I think, resonate when we say, men should buy flowers. Why not? That's just like a normal expectation, right?
You know what's funny? My husband said to me, he watched an episode of EastEnders a very long time ago, and in that episode, someone bought a bunch of flowers for the other half, and a line was said about if you're giving flowers because you've got a guilty conscience. That's kind of what it said. And my husband always says, "Oh, that's if I give you flowers, that's what it means." And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And I actually never.
Exactly.
I was like,
what? My husband thinks it's a waste of money.
It's just one of those things, but it goes back to that.
And bless my husband.
Yeah,
exactly.
I have an expectation, and he has another. He's got his thinking, and he's just watched an episode of a program that has that. But it's just the expectations and the things that we've told ourselves that as I've grown up, the things I've allowed myself to hold on to, and when I was referring to the comments that adults would make, because when we say that people say things and you kind of meet that expectation, and I think that's what I've been doing. That's what I was doing all that time. And actually, it's when I wasn't looking to fit in, when I wasn't looking for anything but wanting to be the best that I can be, that's when it's kind of turned around for me, and where I kind of like, I'm seeing things better for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just the stories we tell ourselves. So, my husband thinks flowers are a waste of money and it triggers his hay fever, whereas I see it as one of the biggest tokens of affection and love. And then the other day he came in with a bunch of coriander. He goes, "There you go. The best bunch I can buy you."
Lovely.
Gone are the days where I'd be really annoyed at that. Like, how could you? Like, how could you do that? And I just embraced it. I was like, "Oh, I love coriander," and that's really funny, actually. So I'll take that one. So, alhamdulillah. I think Mary had her hand up. So, did you want to unmute yourself, sis? We've got about 10 minutes left, inshallah. So, if you want to unmute yourself. Oh well, he doesn't know the difference, because another day he bought parsley, bless him.
I was just thinking the same. No, my husband, I don't even know if he knows the difference, but I'm sure he's asked me before, and I'm like, "No, just break the leaf and smell it," and he's like, "But it doesn't smell." I'm sure he knows. He knows now. But
So I just wanted to jump on here really quickly and say, I'm so honored to know Rashida as a coach, and I'd like to call her my friend. And I know that although she's become a coach, she really sells herself short. And I just wanted to say, and I'm sure loads of the sisters will agree with me, and for all of them, that today's session was really inspiring, and you've got so much to give. Your story is so inspiring, and with especially with people who I've always kind of been on the overweight side, and I get a lot of flack and mocking from my family, and it's kind of all done in like jest and everything, but you actually don't realize how much of an effect it comes on. So I think the fact that you've been able to overcome that really is commendable, and very, very brave of you to share your story with us. So I just want to say that I love you for the sake of Allah, and keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, Meru, Jazakallah here. yes, I've said this to you a lot of times, that I see you as one of my sisters. And yeah, alhamdulillah, I love you too, for the sake of Allah. Jazakallah.
Oh, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Definitely. I mean, our biggest lesson is that beauty is from the inside out. You know, how fortunate are we that Allah looks at our heart. He doesn't look at our outer aspect. He looks at our heart. And so beauty really is from the inside out. SubhanAllah. Is there any final questions? I mean, we will open up the WhatsApp chat group for you to share your reflections on what you heard from, amazing Rashida's story. And thank you so much again for sharing. Are there any burning questions before we end? Oh, Razia says she loves you too, Rashida.
Oh,
There's a lot of love here.
Yeah. I'm really feeling the love right now. It's just so endearing. Jazakallah, everyone.
A lot of love and a lot of inspiration. So, you know what, sisters? Never ever sell yourself short. You've not been created in vain. Allah doesn't make any mistakes. You are exactly how you're meant to be. And there's goodness in that. There's richness in that. There's potential in that. And subhanAllah, when we connect with Allah, we see the beauty. We see the love. We see the joy in who we are. Right? And it's shaitan's, best efforts to keep knocking us down. Because when we're knocked down within ourselves, within our self-confidence, that's when he can attack us. So he wants us to stay down. He wants us to feel rubbish about ourselves. He wants us to doubt. Because that's when he can keep us down. Right? When we find our strength and our beauty through knowing Allah, trusting Allah, believing in Allah, that's when we can flourish. And we can reach that potential, each and every one of us. So I pray, listening to Rashida's story and all of our stories inspires you all. There's a different flavour for all of you sisters, because we're all different. We're all unique. SubhanAllah. So, keep in touch through the WhatsApp group. Share your reflections. What have you been hearing? What have you been seeing on this journey? And inshallah, if it's okay with you, Rashida, we're going to close it there.
Yeah. Yep, that's fine.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum.